Imagine walking into a holiday party and the aroma of cloves, cinnamon, butter, and apples fills the air. If you're looking for that, this is the dessert for you. It's truly indulgent and truly celebratory for the season. Let's jump in. One of the reasons I love this recipe is you can literally toss everything into the baking dish that you use. Though the first step is turning the oven on, so go ahead and preheat it to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. This recipe calls for 2.5 to 3 pounds of green apples. That should be about 4 really big apples. To make things a little bit more festive, we're going to be substituting in one of the apples for a pear. You can skip this step and use all apples. Go ahead and peel all of your apples. I like to save my skins and add them to oatmeal throughout the week, but you can toss them if you want. Like so good. I'll probably finish all these by the time I'm done filming. Okay, next we need to chop the apples. I'm going for about this size. I am leaving the pear skin on. I like the texture of it, but you can peel it. And like I said, you can skip using the pear at all. As you go, you can simply just add everything to the baking dish that you're going to be using. You can mix everything in a bowl and dump it in later. It will tend to hold more juices this way than if you mix it separately. The smaller you chop your apples, the mushier and quicker it'll cook. Since we are doing a sticky toffee pudding sauce on top, I decreased the sugar of a usual 1/3 cup down to 1/4 cup. This will just mean the apples are a little bit less sweet, which I think is a good thing in this case. We're gonna start out with at least a full teaspoon of cinnamon. I love a lot of spice in my apple crisp. We're gonna do a dash of cloves, some ground nutmeg. Each of those I probably did about 1/4 teaspoon to maybe 1/2. And then 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. Next, we're gonna take our microplane and zest over a lemon. Lemon juice adds brightness and kind of helps even out the sweetness from all the sugar. Try not to get too much of the white part in there because that can be a little bit bitter. Next, we're gonna cut the lemon in half and add the juice. The last ingredient is some softened butter. Just going to add it in, and I like to just place it around here. You can get in there with tongs, a spoon. I just use my hands because it's easiest. If the butter doesn't seem like it's spreading, that's totally fine. It can even go into this mixture cold. The point of it is just as the apples release juice, it'll kind of meld with it and be really delicious. Once everything is covered in the spices and the sugar evenly, we're going to set this aside and make the topping. I'm using 1/2 cup of butter, which is 1 stick, and I'm just cutting it into tablespoon markers, and I'm going to microwave it for about 15 seconds. 15 seconds was perfect for me. You can see that it creates an indent when I press into it. And since we're gonna be pinching it and working with it, if it's a little bit cold, that's totally fine. We're using oats because they get crispy, so we're gonna do a little bit over 1 cup. Then we're gonna be using some dark brown sugar. This is gonna be adding a ton of flavor. Put in 2/3 to 3/4 of a cup. Next, I'm going to be using some whole wheat flour for this. It just adds a little bit of extra nuttiness. You can use all-purpose flour though if that's all you have. I'm going to be putting in 3/4 cup. And then more spice, of course. So more cinnamon, a little extra nutmeg, and an extra dash of cloves. We're gonna be adding walnuts at the end, but we gotta get in there and kind of make it sandy first. Otherwise the walnuts kind of get in the way. So just go in with your hands and keep pinching until you get a sandy mixture. I actually forgot the salt, so we're gonna add a little bit of salt. This is almost done. You can see it's getting really sandy. So we're gonna get this on top of our apples and pear. We're gonna get this in the oven. This can take about 45 minutes depending on how big your apples are. You just want them to go until everything is really fork tender and cooked down and the top is nice and crispy. So this has only been in for about 2 minutes. I don't know where my head is at, but we forgot the walnuts. I mean, some people wouldn't even care, but I was like, they add a little bit of extra crisp. So I pulled it out. We're gonna add about 1/4 cup of walnuts, and I just kind of like hand break them up like this. This is going back in the oven, and we're gonna get it cooked. Today we're just making the sauce, but if you want to see a sticky toffee pudding video, let me know in the comments below. This sauce is super easy. All you need is butter, brown sugar, and whipping cream. Some other things we're going to add in: a little pinch of salt to even out the sweetness, and some vanilla paste. I'm just going to be using a regular stainless steel saucepan. Non-stick also works. We're gonna be using 1/2 cup of butter, and that's 1 stick. We're gonna get that in there and let it melt. The butter is just about melted. So now we're gonna add everything else in. The brown sugar, this is a little over 1/2 cup. We're gonna start with 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. Add in that ooey gooey vanilla paste, and then a pinch of salt. And then we just stir until everything really starts to come together. Once it gets to the point where it's just starting to bubble, we're gonna turn the heat down, but let it reduce a little bit so that it gets a little bit thicker. This has been on the stove for about 5 minutes. We need 7 to 10 to reduce it slightly. So we're gonna let it go just a little bit longer, and then we're gonna remove it from the heat to cool. Oh, she is gorgeous. You can hear all the juices. Everything is very fork tender. The juices have all bubbled to the top, and the apple crumble on top is very crispy. So we're gonna let this cool. It lets the flavors meld and things can kind of re-solidify so you're not serving anything too soupy or goopy. I went for the baby bowl because this is a pretty sweet dessert. You can serve this dessert with ice cream, with extra chopped walnuts on top. The world is your oyster. It's also great as it is, so give it a try and then tell me what you like to pair it with. This sauce has cooled and just look how ooey and gooey it is. We're gonna go ahead and just drizzle extra on top. Wow, I don't often say this, but I feel like I outdid myself on this one. It's so delicious. The apples are spiced and they're a little bit lemony because we reduced that sugar. They're not too sweet, but topped with that sticky toffee pudding. Whoa, everyone is gonna love this one. And if you have a favorite holiday dessert that you like to make every year, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.